For 40 years, it stood untouched. The British pension, the SIPP, the private fund, the quiet vault at the bottom of the family garden was the last true fortress in Britain. It was the one asset the taxman was legally forbidden to enter. You could build it, grow it, and leave it to your children, and HMRC could not lay a single finger on it. It was a shield, and for 4 decades, that shield held. But on one quiet morning in 2026, with no headline screaming it from the rooftops, the drawbridge was lowered. The gate to the fortress was left open. And thousands of families across Britain are only now beginning to understand that the stronghold they trusted for an entire lifetime has already been breached. This is the silent rule change that is quietly turning ordinary family inheritances into an HMRC harvest. For a whole generation, the advice was simple, and it was treated as gospel. Spend everything else first, draw down the ISA, sell the second property, live off your savings. And whatever you do, leave the pension until the very last, because the pension was the safe haven, the one pot that would pass to your children, clean, untouched, and completely tax-free. That strategy quietly built fortunes for the careful. Today, that exact same strategy is financial suicide. Because from April 2027, the rules that made the pension a shield are gone. From that date, most unused pension pots will be counted as part of your estate for inheritance tax. The one thing you protected the hardest is about to become the single most heavily taxed asset you own. And understand this, it is not a rumour and it is not a proposal, it is now law. It received royal assent in 2026. The clock is already ticking. Picture it this way. Imagine that decades ago, you built a beautiful, high-tech glass shield over your family's garden. Everything you planted for your children grew safely beneath it, protected. And when the tax rain came, as it always does in Britain, it simply bounced off the glass and ran harmlessly away into the gutter. Your garden stayed dry. Your harvest stayed yours. But quietly, without ever telling you, the government has been up on the roof, and they have replaced that glass with a sieve. The shield looks exactly the same from where you are standing. It feels just as solid, but the rain is no longer bouncing off. It is pouring straight through. And in 2027, that rain is going to soak 40% of everything you ever planted for the people you love. Now, here is where it stops being a metaphor and starts being a cold, hard number. Because for anyone who dies after the age of 75, there is not one tax waiting at the gate. There are 2. Let me show you exactly what that does. Imagine a father who has done everything right. He leaves a pension pot of £500,000 to his daughter. Under the old rules, she receives £500,000, the full amount. Under the new rules, watch closely. First, this family's tax-free allowances have already been used up by the value of the home, so the whole pot is exposed. HMRC steps in and takes 40% in inheritance tax. That is £200,000 gone before his daughter ever sees a single penny of it. She is now left with £300,000. But the taxman is not finished. Because her father died after 75, when the daughter goes to withdraw that remaining money, it is taxed all over again, this time as her own income. As a higher earner, she pays another 40%. That is a further £120,000 gone. So let us total it up. A £500,000 gift of love, a lifetime of careful, disciplined saving, arrives in his daughter's hands as £180,000. Roughly a third survives the journey. And in the very worst cases, for the highest earners, even less than a third makes it through. This is the part that catches families completely off guard. So let me make it as simple as I can. Picture your children pushing a heavy cart of your wealth across a long retirement bridge, trying to carry your legacy safely to the other side. At the very start of the bridge stands Gate 1. That is inheritance tax. They pay the toll, the cart gets lighter, and they carry on. And most families believe that is the end of it. One gate, one toll, done. But they are wrong, because at the far end of the bridge stands Gate 2. That is income tax, and there is simply no way around it. By the time your children have paid at both gates, the cart that started so full is very nearly empty. 2 tolls, 1 bridge. That is the trap almost nobody sees coming, until the cart finally arrives on the other side, and they look inside, and there is almost nothing left. For most people, there is no dramatic moment. no warning letter, no phone call from the bank. It arrives on any quiet morning, perhaps at the start of the financial quarter, over a simple cup of tea, when a son or a daughter finally sits down with the numbers and sees the truth in black and white, that the fortune their parents spent an entire lifetime building has been quietly cut down by more than half. That they are, in effect, trading their own family's future for a policy change signed off in an office in Westminster. And by the time that quiet morning comes, the window to do anything about it has very often already closed. Which is exactly why, right now, something remarkable is happening across the home counties and far beyond. The wealthy are moving, and they are moving fast. For years, the entire strategy was to save the pension and guard it. Now that strategy has flipped completely on its head. Financial advisors are reporting a massive spike in what they call drawdown acceleration, pensioners deliberately pulling money out of their pots faster than ever before, alongside a genuine surge in pension gifting, moving cash down to children and grandchildren while they are still alive to do it. Across the country, succession planning has gone into overdrive, and all of it is racing toward the very same closing door, April 2027. But here is the catch, and it is a cruel one. You cannot simply hand the money over and walk away clean. Because of what is known as the 7-year rule, a gift only becomes completely free of inheritance tax if you live for 7 years after giving it, die within that window, and the taxman can still reach right back and claim his share. Think about what that actually means. 7 years. That is precisely why this is no longer calm, careful, unhurried planning. That is why advisors have quietly started calling it panic planning. Every single month you wait is a month you may not be able to afford to lose. The clock did not start ticking in 2027. For anyone who truly wants to beat it, the clock started ticking the very day you understood the rule. So what can actually be done? When the automatic shield fails, you switch to the manual override, and there are 2 moves the well-advised are quietly making right now. The first is a whole-of-life insurance policy. Written correctly and held properly in trust, the payout lands outside your estate, a clean, ready pool of cash that your family can use to settle the inheritance tax bill without having to shatter the pension pot itself. The second is making certain you use every allowance that a marriage provides. Through the marriage allowance and the transferable band between spouses, a husband and wife can combine their thresholds, stacking the frozen £325,000 nil rate band together with the £175,000 residence allowance on each side to shield far more of the estate than either one of them ever could alone. It will not stop every single pound from being taxed, but it can be the difference between your children keeping a third and your children keeping a great deal more. And one last honest word before we close. Anything left directly to a husband or a wife still remains completely exempt. The trap was never the marriage. The trap is the generation that comes after. Here is the hard truth that 2027 has finally forced out into the open. In the Britain of today, wealth is no longer about what you accumulate. The saver who simply piles it up and trusts the old shield to hold is about to watch that pile get cut clean in half. Wealth now is about what you architect. It is about building a structure so deliberate, so carefully planned, that it can survive not just a bad market, but the next budget and the one after that. Because the shield you were promised has already been quietly swapped out from beneath you. The only fortress left standing in Britain is the one you design yourself. And in the years ahead, true freedom is not a bigger pot. It is a plan built stronger than the next thing they decide to change. If this video helped, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.